Yes! Hello, my beautiful friends. What an amazing day it is. An extra amazing day today because the president is now declaring the truth unequivocally from the Oval Office. Barack Obama is guilty. We're going to go through it today. He dropped a burner, kind of like a little nuclear bomb going off there in Obama land, and we're going to go through it. We're going to start today, of course, quick preview on what's coming up, then we'll zoom back in on further detail. But we got this statement from Obama, okay, a rare office statement from the former president who is sounding a little bit nervous. So we'll see what he said. We got the actual clip here from the president in the Oval Office today. He went on for about a minute, 2 minutes and a half, and was unequivocal about it. We're happy to hear it. We also saw Tulsi Gabbard today just also responded to Barack Obama. Okay, so we're asking ourselves this question: who's going to be prosecuted and when? And what are the charges going to be? So that is the first part of it. But remember, on the other end of all this, like, Obama's guilty in the collusion with the intelligence agencies to say that Trump was colluding with the Russians and that the Russians interfered and blah, blah, blah. But on the other side, okay, not only were they attacking Trump, but they were covering up for Hillary at the same time, the same people. And Chuck Grassley came out and he explained it. He says, look, we got newly declassified emails. We love declassified documents. And actually, this was an annex that was in the OIG Inspector General's report saying the FBI cut corners, which is very, nice of Chuck Grassley to say that. Cut corners? You mean rigged the justice system? All right, so we'll talk about it. We got the report is here. It's 35 pages, lots of redactions that we can't see for whatever reason. But we'll go through, we'll see what we can glean out of it. And then hear from Mike Johnson on all of this. He's talking about transparency today and how the Democrats are not doing it since their prior administration, half of them, are now invoking the Fifth Amendment. So we'll talk about all that. Then we got to have an Epstein update, my friends, because we got 2 new court orders that came down in 2 Epstein cases. We've got some big updates on this one. We'll see. We got some filings that dropped today from Judge Paul A. Engelmeyer. This is in the Ghislaine Maxwell case out of Southern District of New York. And then also in the Epstein case, we got this one also in the Southern District of New York, but this one was assigned to a different judge. So a couple of orders we saw earlier this week, maybe Saturday. We covered the fact that the DOJ was now submitting motions to unseal those grand jury transcripts and the testimony and all the things. So we'll see what the judges want from them and go through some reaction on what Congress is up to, because Tim Burchett is saying they're going to get these documents. Okay, so this thing is not going away. And it shouldn't. We should get the records, and we're happy to see that's happening. So Caroline Leavitt was out yesterday talking about it. The president was in the Oval Office today talking about it. And so we got some great updates, some good court documents, some good filings. And we're excited that you are here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for subscribing to our channel if you haven't already done that. We have a great members-only community as well. If you're looking for some extra content and some extra amazing people, come join as a member. We go live in the mornings. We do Saturday streams. We have a lot of great people there, and we have a lot of fun. So come join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you want to get off the platforms, and on YouTube with that join button. And we'll see you tomorrow on the members-only stream in the morning. And the after party happening today. All coming soon. All right, so here is where we're going to start today from the former president. Barack Obama sounds nervous. His press office released a rare statement. This is according to Sam Stein. He reports over for Bulwark and MSNBC. He said Obama came out and said this in response to this statement from Trump. Trump went nuclear today in the Oval Office. 2 minutes and 30 seconds. We'll come back to that and see what Obama's responding to. But here is what Obama said. And then Tulsi came out and responded to Obama. And here's Tulsi. So we got a lot of reaction back and forth today. And Trump started it, but here is what Obama said in response. Statement from Patrick Rodenbush, spokesperson for President Obama. Out of respect for the office of the presidency, our office does not normally dignify the constant nonsense and misinformation flowing out of this White House with a response. But these claims are outrageous enough to merit one. These bizarre allegations are ridiculous and a weak attempt at distraction. Okay. Methink the Lady Barrack doth protesteth too much. Nothing in the document issued last week undercuts the widely accepted conclusion that Russia worked to influence, see how they phrase that, worked to influence Did they influence or did they work to influence the 2016 presidential election, but did not successfully manipulate any votes? These findings were affirmed by a 2020 report by the bipartisan Senate Intelligence Committee led by then Chairman Marco Rubio. Yeah, that's a total red herring. It has nothing to do with the fact that you tried to extend that allegation into something that it clearly wasn't, right? You tried to turn it into something like Putin was personally invested and involved in this. Ridiculous. So that's Obama. Now, the truth of the matter is, Tulsi says we've got the documents on this, so we'll come back to her in a second. But here was what the president said today after the report came out. We read through everything on that amazing day of release where Tulsi Gabbard wrote the X post thread. She said that they had a meeting in December right after Trump won, and they got everybody together in one room, like disgusting little politicians, and tried to come up with this scheme to delay President Trump from winning. If they could seed a narrative that the Russians helped Trump win, then maybe something could happen. Nobody bought it, fortunately, and Trump came into power. But they were trying to coup the presidency. The documents are now out. Per the president, Obama, is what the email from DNI James Clapper, his assistant, because he was too cowardly to write it himself. Hey, can you write this over there, Amanda? She's like, oh, okay, sure. Sends it out, not knowing she's committing treason on behalf of the DNI, James Clapper. And now it's all out. We see the emails, we see the documents. They wrote per the president. That's per Obama. The day before that, there was an intelligence briefing that says that it is not something that the Russians did. Then they had their little powwow. Boom, suddenly it's the Russian attack scheme. And simultaneous to all this, they're also covering up for Hillary. As Chuck Grassley just reported in these new declassified documents, the annex, the appendix over from the Office of the Inspector General. So here is what Trump said today that is causing Obama to get into a tizzy over there.
From your perspective, who should the DOJ target as part of their investigation? What specific figures in the Obama administration?
Well, based on what I read, and I read pretty much what you read, it would be President Obama. He started it.
Yep.
And Biden was there with him, and Comey was there, and Clapper, the whole group was
All
there.
John Kerry.
Brennan, they were all there.
Ben Rhodes.
In a room. Right here. This was the room.
Yeah.
This is much more beautiful than it was then, but that's okay. I have nice pictures up. They came out of the vaults.
Better energy.
They were in there for 100 years. This
Better
is
smell.
Much more beautiful. We have the Declaration of Independence now in the room, which wasn't here. I guess people didn't feel too good about putting it here, but I do.
They had Obama's
But
stinky
you know
feet
what?
on the desk.
If you look at those papers, they have them stone cold, and it was President Obama. It wasn't lots of people all over the place. It was them too. But the leader of the gang was President Obama.
That's right.
Barack Hussein Obama. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
And except for the fact that he gets shielded by the press for his entire life, that's the one they, look, he's guilty. It's not a question, you know, I like to say, let's give it time. It's there, he's guilty.
Guilty.
This was treason. This was every word you can think of. They tried to steal the election. They tried to obfuscate the election. They did things that nobody's ever even imagined, even in other countries. You've seen some pretty rough countries. This man has seen some pretty rough countries, but you've never seen anything like it. And we have all of the documents. And from what Tulsi told me, she's got thousands of additional documents coming. So President Obama, it was his concept, his idea, but he also got it from crooked Hillary Clinton. Crooked is a $3 bill. Hillary Clinton and her group, the Democrats, spent $12 million to Christopher Steele to write up a report that was a total fake report. Took 2 years to figure that out, but it came out that it was a total fake report. It was made up fiction. And they used that. Now, the one thing they weren't able to do was to, and probably the only thing I respect about the press in years is the press refused to write it before the election.
And that reason for that was because they were trying to play the game for the Democrats and take a fake story that was seeded by the Hillary Clinton campaign. They went and hired Mark Elias's law firm, Perkins Coie. Michael Sussman and them colluded. They were the ones colluding with Michael Steele, Fusion GPS, the whole crew to create something that didn't exist. And they tried to blame Russia, another power that had nothing to do with their allegations. So the president in this one is unequivocal, okay? He's guilty. This was treason. So that statement, even from Trump, is a little bit different than anything you've ever heard him say about Jeffrey Epstein. And so if we now fast forward to the end of his term and Obama has not been indicted, what does that mean from the president's mouth? That somebody who committed treason was not held accountable. That somebody who is guilty, based on all the documents he's seen, is not being held accountable. So the administration and Tulsi Gabbard and Pam Bondi all anchoring this in, that Obama is guilty. And we've seen this unequivocally here. Here is even Tulsi Gabbard responding to Obama, saying, ridiculous and weak attempt. We read through the documents, okay, there, Barry. We know what they say. And here is what Tulsi Gabbard said in response to scrambling, panicking Obama.
National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Director Gabbard, give me your response to what we heard from former President Obama there. He's saying that none of this makes any sense, that this is a distraction. What do you say to that?
It's the art of deflection coming from former President Obama, as well as his friends who are still in Congress today, and Senator Warner and Congressman Jim Himes, really all basically saying that exact same statement, which doesn't actually address the issue that was revealed in great detail in the over 100 documents that we released last week, and the documents that we will be releasing later this week, that point to the undeniable fact that you laid out in your introduction to this segment, is that the intelligence community had one assessment, that Russia did not have the intent or capability to try to impact the outcome of the U.S. election leading up to Election Day. The same assessment was made after Donald Trump was elected by the American people as president in 2016, defeating Hillary Clinton. And it wasn't until after that pulled President's Daily Brief document that you referenced that the Principals Committee was called in the National Security Council, and President Obama then directed Obama's DNI James Clapper to lead the effort to create this new intelligence community assessment
for the president
that detailed not if, but how Moscow attempted to influence the outcome of the U.S. election. So this is the thing that I think people should pay attention to, is neither the message from President Obama's office, neither the statements coming from Democrats in Congress today and their friends in the propaganda media. None of them are addressing this fact that there was a shift, a 180-degree shift from the intelligence community's assessment leading up to the election to the one that President Obama directed be produced after Donald Trump won the election, that completely contradicted those assessments that had come previously. The second thing I want to address that's very important, Laura, is that you in the clip that you played, you saw John Brennan, James Clapper, James Comey stated with high confidence this January intelligence community assessment that they drafted at the direction of President Obama. The fact is that they used already discredited information like the Steele dossier. They knew it was discredited at that time, yet they used it as a source for this document that they claim to have high confidence in. They used intelligence that some of these intelligence community professionals rejected previously because of the lack of credibility and the lack of the ability to vet with any kind of confidence whether or not that information or intelligence was accurate and could be used for an assessment. There's a long laundry list of facts and intelligence reporting that directly contradict the statement coming from President Obama's office and those who are trying to deflect away from what actually happened, which was after Donald Trump was elected. Led by President Obama, there was an effort to create a document that would serve as a foundation for what would be a years-long coup against President Trump, therefore trying to subvert the will of the American people who sent him to the White House in 2016.
Yeah, they impeached him. They worked very hard to try to remove him on false pretenses, and now the records are being released. So Tulsi and Trump and sounds like huge portions of the apparatus are now moving to release even more documents and bring more truth. Now, this was a big reveal that came today from the Federalist. Molly Hemingway, you know who she is, amazing. Make sure you're following her everywhere and supporting our friends at the Federalist. But they wrote this, they said that they've got top intelligence, a report that the officials contradicted Brennan specifically, okay? Brennan, the former CIA director, one of the worst of them all, has been around in 16, 20, 24, and still lingering around, hanging out with Jen Psaki. They say that there was no intelligence to support their claims. This is even more evidence that came out from Mali. They said, hey, top officials working on the intelligence community analysis were actually overruled by John Brennan. They came out with a truthful report, and then John said, no, that's not going to work for me. I need something we can use as an operation against the president. According to records exclusively reviewed by the Federalist, they said, the records are related to ongoing criminal investigations into Brennan, presumably Obama and the rest of them, and their roles in the Russia collusion hoax. Turns out they were colluding with our intelligence agencies. The dispute over the key judgment was in a January 2017 intelligence community assessment that Russia had interfered in the election specifically because Putin and the Russian government, quote, aspired to help President-elect Trump's election chances. And you notice how Obama's statement is way more watered down because this was all made up, right? Obama can't, in his new statement, say things that are still fake. Like he didn't say that in the intelligence report, but that's what they put in the intelligence report and they made it up. The senior intelligence official pointed out the lack of evidence to even substantiate John Brennan's claim, saying, we have no intelligence to directly support this aspiration point. What? Said one member of the small group of individuals working with Brennan and James Comey and James Clapper. All of them knew. Hey, guys, we have no intelligence to support this at all. They're like, well, we don't really care. Feels right. You know, Putin, Trump, they feel like two peas in a pod. The official worried that the inclusion of the claim would open the intelligence community to a line of very politicized inquiry that is sure to come up when this hits. That guy was right. Now, a recent CIA analysis of the inclusion of this disputed key judgment noted that the risks of including poorly supported judgments sent skeptical readers are inclined to reject the entire analysis. And we read this one. This was the kind of weak, limited hangout report from the CIA director, John Ratcliffe. And remember, we read through this. This was his whole report about what a corrupt operation John Brennan was. The title of this report was Intelligence Community Assessment, the Russia's Influence Campaign Targeting this Election, Tradecraft Review on all of it. And there were a lot of problems. They said that they tried to cram this in. They were operating outside of normal procedures and all the things were happening. And then, of course, John Ratcliffe comes out and he's like, well, what we're going to do on this one is you're just going to go stand in the corner for 5 minutes, think about what you did, and then come on back out. And then moving forward, since we tried to coup the entire country next time, we're just going to ensure that next time we try to coup everybody, we're going to have consistent access to analysts, and we're going to have appropriate parameters and clear protocols, and we're going to communicate guidelines and expectations. Great. So their next coup will be by the book, but otherwise, they're fixing everything over there at the CIA. Okay, so we got that. Now they say that also, was evidence that Brennan, Clapper, Obama, Comey, the rest of them were rigging this. CIA comes out, drops it. DNI comes out, drops it. And we're waiting for more. Where's Kash Patel and the FBI? Give us all Comey's emails too, Kash. The experts did not disagree that Russia had continued its practice of attempting to sow chaos. They believe the intelligence indicated Russia sought to weaken the presumptive winner, Hillary Clinton, and those efforts may have indirectly helped Trump, but they were concerned about the lack of evidence for the claim that became the cornerstone of the Russian collusion narrative, which was Trump was conspiring with Russia to steal the election. And many Democrats are so mentally deluded that they still think that these days. It's been years. Hillary probably still thinks that. Can you really prove Moscow is trying to get Trump elected? The official asked. Do you have evidence of that before you just shove it in there, John? Brennan called the dissenting individuals into his office. He says, get in here. And he had lengthy meetings in which they articulated their serious concerns. He said, the assessment is going to stay the same. You're overruled. And he reported at the end of the meeting, get out. The paper trail about this dispute posed a problem for Brennan. He didn't want that to be in the docket, who had presented the information as being universally held with a high degree of confidence all across the agency, which is crap. The CIA review noted that the key judgment was given a, quote, higher confidence level than was justified. It further noted that the intelligence report had been drafted under an unusually rushed timeline that had preceded by the leaks to the Washington Post and the New York Times, because they were leaking it while they were rigging it. Brennan later threw the dissenting officials under the bus when he recounted the events. He wrote about his decision, and he said, I came to the conclusion that the two officers had not read all the available intelligence. John Brennan's just much smarter. He did his homework. The top managers of the Russia unit were not closely tracking all of the intelligence, he said. That's according to a letter from his attorney to John Durham. He further claimed that he had personal knowledge of raw intelligence that they hadn't seen. These guys are such scumbags. Where'd you get that raw intelligence from, Brennan? When was the last time he was on an operation or getting actual primary source intelligence? Somebody texted him and he's like, oh, great, perfect. I'll send that in to somebody. The letter was provided earlier this month to The Atlantic, a publication that participated in the Russia collusion hoax. And I'm pretty sure the owner of that magazine also, wasn't she the one who was hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell in that photo in their bikinis to each other, looking at whatever they're looking at? After CIA Director John Ratcliffe released a review showing it was a disaster and then really didn't do anything about it, Brennan has never publicly shared what his secret knowledge was. No, I can't show you. It's too classified and top secret. But it proves everything I say. Well, can we see it? No, because that's CIA intelligence. No one knows what it is, although it had purportedly been collected in July. But even then, Brennan tightly restricted access to this information. The CIA review of this report was questioning whether the extreme limitations on this were even appropriate. The New York Times also previously revealed that Brennan began shopping the claim about Russia to numerous members of Congress in August and September of 2016. This guy, I mean, this is treason, man, like through and through. He's making up a fake claim and shopping it to senators before the election occurs. When Brennan briefed the then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell on his claim, McConnell responded dryly. He said, one might say the CIA and the Obama are making such claims in order to prevent Trump from getting elected president. Rare win from Mitch McConnell. Thank you, Mitch. Harry Reid, also by contrast, worked with Brennan on the contours of a public letter. Okay, Brennan, Obama's CIA director, was trying to do a Russian laptop collusion hoax back then. And did it again in 2020. He got better at it. First one, he failed. The CIA briefing of the Senate Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence included that claim as well. Senate Democrats pushed Obama to publicly release evidence that the Kremlin pushed voters to choose Trump. Where's your evidence of that? Prior to Brennan's inclusion of the claim, the key judgment was leaked to the Washington Post, falsely portraying it as a CIA conclusion, just like Michael Sussman tried to do too. The CIA has concluded in a secret assessment that Russia intervened to help Trump win, said the Washington Post, all fake, scam media. New York Times also reported it based on anonymous sources because they're just propaganda rags. The Steele dossier was listed as one of the items that substantiated the claims. That was, of course, fake. And so the entire basis for any of these claims is rigged. The new records reviewed exclusively by the Federalist buttresses recent claims from the CIA and the DNI, Ratcliffe and Tulsi, saying that they were trying to rig all this. Margot Cleveland, with this great report, said the records reviewed by the Federalist also reveal that CIA Deputy Director called David Cohen claimed not to understand the profound difference between the conclusion that Russia sought to undermine Clinton and the unsupported claim that Putin actively sought to help Trump. He said, well, what's the difference? I'm a CIA agent. I'm a moron. Can you explain it to me? What's the difference if it's one or the other? I can't tell because words have no meaning to me because I'm an idiot. The distinction was easily understood by the members of the intelligence community, though, who leaked false, misleading information to the media to frame that. Yeah, so the leakers knew, but they must be much more intelligent than the CIA Deputy Director, David Cohen, who's a moron who can't even understand proper grammar. All right, so that's from the Federalist. And, of course, that report from the CIA confirmed the same report from the DNI, Tulsi Gabbard. And we're looking forward to maybe a DOJ report, maybe an FBI report from Kash Patel and Dan Bongino to explain what they've got on this. Now that we've got the DNI and the CIA with their statements, we'll see what else is next. But Obama, he seems nervous. Now, while all that was happening, we also had this. While Obama and Clapper and Brennan and Comey were all colluding to rig the election against President Trump, who had just won in that December meeting, they were trying to smear him as a colluder with Putin. While that was happening, the same FBI that was rigging those claims was rigging the Hillary Clinton investigation. Chuck Grassley released this. It's a declassified appendix that came out in a prior report that has now been authorized for public release by Chairman Grassley, and we're happy to see it. It's 35 pages, lots of redactions inside, but this is the first time that we're seeing this since it's been covered up for the past 4 years under the prior administration. Here's the backstory. Chuck Grassley is now bringing light to the DOJ's Office of Inspector General's findings that the FBI failed to fully investigate Hillary Clinton and the use of her private email server and the mishandling of highly classified information during her time as Secretary of State. They covered all of that up. Trump is a Russian enemy, or Russian ally. Hillary is innocent of all allegations against her from the same entities that are supposed to be enforcing justice in our country. Sick. The newly declassified Clinton Annex is an appendix of the DOJ's June 2018 report. After reviewing the DOJ and FBI's handling of the Clinton investigation, the DOJ, under leadership of Pam Bondi, have now finally given this request over to Chuck Grassley. He's sought this information about the document since 2018, and he sent it again to Bill Barr. Why wouldn't Bill Barr give this record over to Chuck Grassley, Bill? He, along with Ron Johnson, requested Trump declassify the documents, and Grassley reiterated the request in 2025. Grassley had a statement about it, but it shows that the FBI obtained thumb drives from a source during the Clinton investigation. And what'd they do with them? Just shoved them in a drawer somewhere. But then FBI Director James Comey is like, oh, thanks for all these. As well as Andrew McCabe, lefty FBI special super agent, former FBI special agent Peter Strzok, who had that lover situation, and others failed to perform additional targeted searches of the drives, even though they contained information relevant to the inquiry, because they all just plugged their ears and la, la, la. Peter Strzok, remember, with his FBI lover, was like, we'll stop him. We're the FBI. We're going to stop Trump. Rigging the whole thing. Never served a day in jail. Never even charged with crimes. The DOJ OIG report illustrates that the FBI failed to thoroughly and completely investigate the Clinton matter. As a result, as well as vet the serious national security risks that Hillary created with her email operation. According to the inspector, the thumb drives contained highly sensitive information exfiltrated from U.S. government agencies. These aren't just Bill Clinton's Facebook photos. They're serious information, including the Department of State, as well as then President Barack Obama's emails and potentially congressional information. The motherlode gets delivered to them. The thumb drives were never reviewed as part of the Clinton investigation, contrary to the recommendation of a draft FBI memo. The DOJ inspector report also shows the drives should have been immediately reviewed for foreign intelligence purposes, but they were not. Here's a little excerpt from that. Writing, second, the inspector learned near the end of our review that the blank data, the Clinton probably data, contains a large volume of emails obtained through blank cyber intrusions into the Department of State and their networks. Wow. The OIG subsequently obtained drafts of a memo created in late May 2016 that requested access to the thumb drives containing Bill's Facebook photos and data for purposes of the mid-year investigation. Now, as described in more detail below, the draft memo stated that review of the thumb drives was necessary to conduct a thorough and complete investigation, obviously, and to assess the national security risks associated with Hillary and her private server that was being hacked all over the place. And the FBI members of the mid-year investigative team described it as a logical investigative lead. However, the inspector says, the FBI never finalized the memo or submitted the request to the department. Oh, you're kidding. The FBI also obtained intelligence reports discussing purported communications between Wasserman Schultz, the chairwoman of the DNC at the time, and two different individuals who worked with George Soros and his Open Society Foundation. In fact, the intelligence reports allege that the Obama administration took efforts to scuttle the investigation into Hillary and to protect her candidacy because she was the one who was going to get the boost. Remember, they sidelined Joe Biden because they knew he was demented back then. The DOJ OIG Clinton Annex shows Comey, McCabe, and Strzok, among others, did not make any serious investigative efforts to determine the veracity or anything about these intelligence reports, because they're just burying evidence like criminals. On July 5th, Comey exonerated Clinton in a public statement where he rigged the law. Remember, he changed his extremely reckless to or grossly negligent. I think he changed to extremely careless or something. What? The statute says grossly negligent. You're like, well, it's just extremely careless. That's pretty close to grossly negligent, isn't it? Yeah, but it's not quite. So nothing's going to happen. On July 5th, Comey exonerated Clinton in a public statement regarding the investigation and recommended the DOJ take no action to hold her accountable because she's Hillary. Instead, they prosecuted Trump 4 times for nothing. Grassley's oversight revealed Comey planned to exonerate Clinton even before interviewing her. Of course, he's on their team. Weeks later, on July 31st, Comey's formally opened a bogus Crossfire Hurricane investigation into Trump that was based on the Steele dossier. And on that same day, Peter Strzok, who's a coward who blocked me on X because he doesn't like criticism, texted Lisa Page, his FBI lover, an FBI lawyer, saying, he said this to her, and damn, this feels momentous because this matters, baby, I love you. The other one did too, but that was to ensure we didn't F something up. This matters because this matters. So super glad to be on this voyage with you, said these 2 weird freaks who were having this love affair. They think they're in a Jason Bourne novel or something because they're idiots. And they're hanging out with they're like, we have to save democracy in America and we're in love. And they're like in a little hideout, closets at the FBI in the gutters. I don't know, smooching or something. But it is pathetic that nothing happened to them. They got paid money in settlements for being wrongfully terminated by Joe Biden's FBI. Grassley cited Comey's handling of the Clinton investigation as evidence that Comey lacked the ability to maintain the public's trust, and Comey was rightfully terminated. And he should be prosecuted too. Hopefully that's happening very soon. So here's more of the annex. Let's jump into it and see what we've got inside. 35 pages, newly declassified from the Office of the Inspector General, brought to us courtesy of Senator Chuck Grassley, who is amazing, from Iowa. This was never released. Obama and the Biden folks tried to keep this thing under seal. Even Bill Barr tried to keep this under seal during Trump 1, it sounds like. And now it's been released. Thank you, Pam Bondi, for this disclosure. Sending it over to Chuck Grassley. Here's what they write. Blank, blank, blank. Now, in this classified appendix, we discuss a collection of data that was obtained from somebody. Now, this collection consists of tons of reports purporting to analyze or characterize intercepted U.S. communications, as well as emails and other data intercepted through cyber intrusions into U.S. entities. Now, the investigation into these cyber intrusions and the resulting data collection is known by the code name Clintonitis, sometimes abbreviated Clinton. Now here, the Clinton data has been in the FBI's possession beginning in this time, and the vast majority of the data has never been reviewed by the FBI, never even looked at it, because what do they care? It would be damning to her campaign, including for counterintelligence purposes, like don't ask, don't tell. Based on concerns, the information might be privileged, right? They just make up reasons why they can't look at these things. Now, redacted is relevant to the mid-year investigation in 2 ways, these Clinton files. First, in this thing and this thing, the FBI obtained these reports purporting to discuss the influence and to influence the mid-year investigation. The initial blank report also suggested that Loretta Lynch and James Comey were interfering in the investigation, to help the Democrat and Republican presidential candidates, respectively. Interfering to help and to hurt? The second report stated that Loretta Lynch had been in contact with named individuals working for Hillary to provide information about the investigation, right? So now Hillary's like, what are you guys going to reveal? Like, I'm running for president. I can't have any big stories drop. What do you got? As described in more detail below, the FBI determined that these reports were not credible on their face. Nevertheless, as described here and in the unclassified report, Comey cited his concern that these reports would be leaked which contributed to his decision not to inform Lynch of his plan to make a unilateral statement announcing the conclusion of the investigation. Wow. Okay, so Comey bypassed the rest of the people working on this. Because if he told them what he was going to conclude, it would have leaked, and he didn't want that to happen. So they all got like blindsided. He walks out. He's like, this is the announcement. She's innocent. They're like, what? She is? Second, the inspector learned near the end of our review that the Clinton data contains a large volume of emails obtained through blank cyber intrusion. So who is that? Foreign cyber intrusions into the Department of State and their networks. Like, it's a small word, so it could be like WikiLeaks, or I don't know. The OIG subsequently obtained drafts of the memo created in late May 2016 that requested access to this. Okay, so can you please give us access to this? It contains this data. We're trying to have our mid-year investigation into whether Hillary's a criminal or not. We need the data. As described in more detail, the draft memo stated that the review of the thumb drives was necessary to finish our job. However, the FBI never finalized the memo, never submitted it to the FBI, to the department, to get permission to get the documents. Of course, they're just slow walking the investigation. Don't ask, don't tell, you just bury it, and no one will ever know. In the classified appendix, we first provided an overview, and because then they stole, they try to steal the election and then cover it up on the back end. So we summarized a lot of this, and we also discussed the reports and how all this came about, and it gives us an outline for the memo. So let's continue. Now, beginning in this time, the FBI obtained thumb drives for a blank source. This guy's known as T1. These drives contain a lot of Clinton data, including Bill Clinton's Facebook photos that he saves at 2 a.m. in the morning. Lock your profiles down. The content exfiltrated from U.S. victims of this computer network intrusion as well. The FBI refers to all data acquired from this guy as the Clinton data. We'll call it. According to FBI witnesses and documents, the FBI obtained 8 thumb drives from T1 between these people and these people, all of which are in FBI custody. Interesting. T1 continued to provide additional communications and documents about how we got these drives, and this data is referred to as Post-8 data or Mission Ridge data. Now here's what's inside, and I see Obama's name coming up. The first 5 thumb drives were obtained by the FBI in this place. These thumb drives primarily contain data exfiltrated from some spy from various U.S. victims, including the Executive Office of the President, the State Department, the House of Representatives, other federal agencies, and everybody. FBI employees told us it was highly likely that the data exfiltrated from other unknown U.S. victims was also present on the thumb drives, which is, I mean, just look at the offices that had their data jacked. In blank, FBI personnel processed the first 5 thumb drives. Instead, they reviewed data on the thumb drives and determined that it contained U.S. victim information. So then the FBI told us the data on the first 5 thumb drives looks like it came from this person because the FBI personnel could see that that was probably an official employee, somebody who's here doing this, doing this. Examples of U.S. victim information that they observed include this review included Obama's emails, possible evidence of a hack intrusion into the something advanced intelligence about a planned FBI arrest of a Russian citizen, network infrastructure diagrams for U.S. government classified networks, and other potentially classified U.S. government information. What is going on? Sheesh. They have everything? Do they have do they have the computer? Do they just take the whole thing? Saying here, one FBI employee told us the thumb drives 3 and 4 focus primarily on State Department, while another FBI witness stated that an estimated % of the data on the first 5 thumb drives pertained to the State Department. According to an FBI employee we interviewed, the blank maintained a blank intrusion into the State Department for approximately however many years. Hillary's like, oh, great. Which was the reason for a large quantity of State Department data in the collection, totally wide open. Witnesses told us that the FBI has never comprehensively reviewed the thumb drives, which is completely intentional. Beginning in late whatever, there were discussions within the FBI and the DOJ about how to review the data. An Office of General Lawyer for the FBI said, well, we're concerned. There could be like victim data on there. Okay, so this lawyer comes out, is trying to find every reason possible not to look at the thumb drives because it's going to be wrecking Hillary. According to FBI witnesses, officials raised privilege concerns and a bunch of other things because it's like a treasure trove of Hillary's debauchery. Now, continuing, the data on the first 5 thumb drives has been queried 3 times since this date. In early 2016, the FBI also obtained permission from the White House counsel and the Office of the Deputy Attorney General to conduct queries using keywords with this. Now, these queries revealed that so-and-so was targeting this person, and the FBI subsequently sought and obtained approval to conduct a second set of queries with these terms. However, then we got in there and there's victim data. And so the FBI was unable to review any of these communications. Now, during the blank searches, FBI analysts used a program to create a word cloud. Oh, those are fun. You see those on blogs of the words extracted from U.S. victim content on the first 5 drives, which they refer to as an index. What are the words? In August 2017, an FBI attorney granted permission to an analyst to query this and told the FBI analyst viewed some data. The additional queries conducted by this employee included Clinton, which returned a lot of hits, and ClintonEmail.com, which returned, it looks like, fewer hits. After reviewing a draft of this appendix, one FBI witness told the inspector that these searches likely did not comport with the review protocols, which are discussed below. And they're going to explain how they're going through each various drive. We got this thumb drive 8, never looked at, never reviewed by the FBI, because it would be devastating to Hillary. Its contents is unknown. Do we have it? I'll plug it in. Is it USB-A? Probably, right? That's okay. I figure it out. Its content is unknown and was only uploaded onto the FBI system in early 2018. No, don't even know. Several witnesses told us that they believe it contains victim data related to the president's office, the State Department, and the House of Representatives, and that it may duplicate their information that is on other thumb drives because T1 copied and pasted and made backups. Now, one FBI witness told us that thumb drive 8 fell through the cracks, I'm sure, because the FBI received it after thumb drive 6 and 7. It's like crazy. I mean, like, they don't let DUI blood samples like fall through the cracks, generally speaking. Like, it's like, in other words, like, it's very, very tight process, okay, with like a regular standard DUI that happens 1,000 times a day. They don't just like lose blood or like not analyze it. It does happen. I mean, it does happen, but it's a very rare thing. And that's happening thousands of times. So the FBI, in one of the biggest investigations in the entire nation, it fell through the cracks. It's like, what are you doing? You're lying is what you're doing. We know it didn't fall through the cracks, and we know what happened. Somebody's covering it up. In addition to the data on the thumb drives, T1 also provided the intelligence community, including the FBI redacted, referred to as post-8 data. They said it covers all these other reports and more victim data and more. Now, in this section, we talk about other reports that suggest that Obama's Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, was trying to influence the Hillary Clinton investigation because they wanted her to run and win. In addition, the first report suggested that Comey was also taking steps to help undermine the Democratic Party. Okay, so like 2 different things. And they blame Comey for a lot of this. Like, they blame Comey for Hillary's loss, even though Hillary was just terrible. And Obama, I think Comey gave her a gift, really. He could have come out and indicted her, and that would have really wrecked things. Now, as described in the section, witnesses told us that the reports were not credible on their face, and including reports that they contained that the FBI knew were objectively false. Now, despite that assessment, Comey told the inspector that he was concerned that information might leak and that this concern was a factor, and it told him why he didn't tell Loretta Lynch in Obama's office of his plan to make the statement, right? He kind of came out, made that statement. They all got blindsided. Now, he says, in continuing, he says, discovery also. In this date, the blank brought to the attention of the FBI Cyber Division that something in the documents mentioned Loretta Lynch. They were identified and translated into English. Both documents appear to be something reports, probably intelligence reports, discussing purported communications between Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was at the time the chairwoman of the DNC, and 2 different individuals who worked for George Soros. The FBI later determined that these things would likely that the calls would likely have obtained any communications, or the taps probably, would have obtained any communications underlying the two reports. And if there was a cyber intrusion into the Atlantic Council, which is a private think tank. Now, the first section of the report is dated, and it says, recent information appearing in the media about the FBI investigating possible facts of corruption in connection with Hillary and maybe granting preferences to Clinton fund donors created a negative reaction within the party. Though this information was known to Democratic Party leaders, according to Debbie Wasserman Schultz, so far the FBI does not have any hard evidence against Hillary Clinton because data was removed from the mail servers just in time. Hillary! And this was in this report, okay? They were all talking about it. They know Hillary Clinton covered it up just in time. Obama is not in the mood. This is what Debbie Wasserman is telling other George Soros people, okay? Debbie Wasserman Schultz, you know her, you can't miss her. You see her once, you never forget. And she was out there telling George Soros people, Hillary's going to be fine, okay? Don't worry about it. Keep those money chains flowing. Then Obama is not in the mood to mar the very final segment of his presidency, his legacy, with a scandal around the leading nominee for the Democrat Party. You think Obama is going to let James Comey come out and indict Hillary Clinton in the months before an election? In his own administration for State Department emails? Never going to happen. No, they have to rig it against Trump with some fake Russia collusion hoax. Obama's not in the mood to follow the law. So he doesn't want to deal with this. To deal with this, he's using Loretta Lynch to mount a pressure campaign on James Comey. Debbie Wasserman is saying, so far, no concrete results on this. Now, Comey is leaning more to Republicans. They were very nervous. And most likely, he's going to be dragging this investigation until the presidential elections, was their thesis, in order to effectively undermine the chances for the Democrats to win. That's not true at all. He came out, right, in an attempt to exonerate Hillary. He could have indicted her. He tried to came out and take it off the table for her. The second report is also dated this date, and verbatim translation reads in the following. Again, so this is from Democrat insiders communicating to each other. By way of forming a consensus relative to the candidacy of Hillary, Obama and the party sanctioned the use of all administrative levers, okay, to remove possibly negative effects of the FBI investigation of Clinton Foundation and the State Department emails. Barack Obama is a corrupt criminal who abused his office to prevent a lawful investigation into a criminal called Hillary. Based upon information from Wasserman Schultz, the FBI does not anticipate any direct evidence against Hillary, as there was timely deletion from the email servers. It's amazing, right? So her phone's got tapped or something. I mean, she's admitting it. No, Hillary, the cover-up was successful. Don't worry about it. The political director of the Hillary Clinton staff, called Amanda Renteria, regularly receives information from Attorney General Loretta Lynch, siphoning information to her campaign on the plans and the intentions of the FBI. The DOJ is getting updated from the FBI. She's passing it over to Hillary. You guys are fine. You're not going to be indicted. Active work is being done on clarification with witnesses. The primary witnesses are a number of computer specialists in the Clinton private circle. They represent the only tools which may be used in this matter, and therefore the threat is minimal. Hillary's not going to get charged. We covered it up. Don't worry about it. Now, the FBI Cyber Division provided copies of these intelligence reports to the mid-year team, and it's a cover-up in addition to the crime. And the FBI is like, well, she was just careless. There's no intentionality. She didn't intend to do any of this stuff. Yes, she did, and she intended to cover it up. We're watching it happen right now. And they knew about it. Didn't tell us any of it. All this classified until today. Lawyers in the FBI and the Cyber Law Unit, they also brought copies of these reports to Tricia at the FBI Deputy General Counsel. She didn't care either. According to an email dated March 16, 2016, at the request of Peter Strzok, the FBI lover, we will stop him, a lead agent on the mid-year investigation, which was ridiculous, and the lead analyst on the mid-year cyber division analyst, these searches revealed something that is redacted. Now, Peter Strzok and the lead analyst also requested a counterintelligence division analyst to run keyword searches for these terms, also Lynch, Clinton, and Comey. And the FBI wrote some reports. Comey and McCabe were informed about the reports, but witnesses did not recall precisely when those took place. McCabe told the inspector that they discussed internally whether there were any investigative steps that would allow them to validate this information in the reports, like the FISA warrant or a subpoena for Lynch's emails. Should we investigate them for trying to cover this up? Now, Comey, McCabe, Anderson, and Jim Rybicki, Comey's chief of staff, were all involved in those discussions. McCabe said they considered asking T1 to get additional information. Like, where are these leads coming from? How are you getting all this? But that there were legal concerns. Now, McCabe told the inspector that they agreed there were no obvious next steps and decided to consult with the deputy attorney general, who was the highest ranking career department official. And so they just went over to them and they said, hey, your boss might be involved in an investigation for corruption. What should we do about it? To the DOJ. Then Anderson summarized the FBI's assessment. According to the memo, the FBI did not view the information in the reports as credible, of course. Most importantly, the FBI said that Comey told the inspector, he said, I want to be clear on this. I had felt no effort to control me, no intervention by the attorney general. And so I didn't find these communications to be credible. Like, it's only Debbie Wasserman Schultz just trying to assure donors it's not a big cover-up. So I didn't find them credible, that there was any evidence of actual intentionality from Clinton. It came from Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who led the DNC. Comey told the OIG that no one believed that the reports were an attempt that were purposeful misinformation by the Russians, that they also did not discredit the underlying information in them. Right, so he believes some fake report about a steel PP tape, but doesn't believe the words from Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Wild. He said that he focused on figuring out what the reports mean as a counterintelligence matter. Now, McCabe and Anderson also similarly stated that the FBI did not feel pressured by Lynch and that there was no wrongdoing here. According to the memo, other factors also weighed against finding that these stories were credible. So they're covering up for Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who she should be subpoenaed and brought in here. What does she know about all this? She's still in government. Why was she telling donors, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, that Hillary had deleted everything? And we're just finding out about that. Hasn't she run for re-election a number of times? The reports likely reflected multiple levels of hearsay. Incredible. You mean the steel PP tape didn't? Wasserman Schultz communications may have contained exaggerations. They're covering up for her. They also said, well, these are opinions and editorialization, and there's probably translation errors. So we just didn't understand her. When asked about the impact of these reports, McCabe said, well, we absolutely believe that the collection is righteous, and we have no reason to question any of these things. And of course, we know it was the Russians. And there were more meetings with the department. FBI officials gave the report, say, can you guys look into these? But they wanted to cover it up too. The report states the group considered and rejected the idea of asking Lynch about it. We've got evidence that she's helping to cover it up. No one wants to talk about it. Now, following a March meeting, March 31st, Anderson and the FBI, James Baker, general counsel, remember Michael Sussman went to meet with him. So it went Mark Elias at Perkins Coie. They hired Fusion GPS, got the PP tape, gave that over to Michael Sussman. He ran that over to FBI, met with James Baker, simultaneously fed that to the media. Consulted with the Office of Intelligence regarding whether the FBI could legally even ask about this. They concluded that a request would be lawful as long as the informant, the source, didn't conduct additional data collection because he was stealing the data. Now, on May 4th, Anderson sent a request to someone trainer with a draft to be provided back to that person to talk to him about continuing his op. On July 1st, 16, McCabe and others held a conference call. And all of the participants on the call agreed that the information in these reports was not credible. So we don't believe it at all. Can we investigate this? Not really. Comey told the inspector that he was aware the group had discussed getting phone records, but said it's not going to be helpful. saying that if you get the phone calls between Lynch and this person, he said, that's a fairly aggressive step to be getting phone records of a senior campaign official. Like if Lynch is talking to Hillary's person, we don't want to even look into that. Instead, we're going to go get a FISA warrant for Trump's campaign. We don't want to look into Hillary's campaign, who's getting active intelligence from the Department of Justice to obstruct a criminal investigation of her that Obama is creating so that his State Department is not caught in a scandal covering up the actual criminality while prosecuting his political opponent. Because, okay, the Attorney General of the United States knows somebody on the Clinton campaign. He says, so what? There's communications between this. So how is that helping us? Says James Comey. Comey also stated that his understanding was that we thought obtaining the phone records would take us down a pretty dark path. So then Axelrod and Carlin and others come in. McCabe told the inspector that he teed up the issue by saying, well, the FBI doesn't even have, we don't believe the reports. He told Axelrod and others, and meetings differed. Yates told us the FBI described the information as fake intel. Oh, it's fake. Oh, it was created by the Russians. Oh, so they were spoofing Debbie's words. Got it. She said that she asked whether the FBI planned to interview Wasserman Schultz. No, it was Russian collusion. John Brennan's like, this has all the hallmarks of a Russian intelligence operation. John Brennan. Stop it, John. Come up with some new material. Says, Yates stated, I just remembered that they didn't come in saying we're concerned that it's true. We're just letting you know that it's out there. The Russians probably did it because the Russians are doing everything. Saying, we're not even going to investigate whether Lynch is biased at all. Axelrod described the meeting with the FBI as a defensive briefing. He said he recalled that McCabe and Anderson either showed them an email or orally described an interceptive communication saying that Lynch had put her thumb on the scale to influence the investigation. Axelrod, and remember, didn't Lynch meet with Bill Clinton on the tarmac while all this was going on? We remember that. Axelrod told the OIG that McCabe and Anderson presented the information as lacking credibility and that he left the meeting with the impression that it was a big nothing burger. Now, after reviewing the two reports and being asked whether these were documents that were shown by the FBI, Axelrod said, never seen those before. Now, it's possible I could have been shown those, but I don't recall seeing those. Others say we don't recall the meeting. Everybody suddenly loses their brain cells. And then there was a meeting between AG Lynch. McCabe and Anderson met with Lynch to maybe ask her about this. They described the meeting as a defensive briefing and said that a member of her staff who handled these issues attended the meeting with her. McCabe told the inspector that he showed the two blank reports, the intelligence reports, to Lynch. And he said this information came from T1. Lynch did not respond to the information in the reports, saying, as she read them, and I will probably never forget, this guy says, he's like, I just showed the Attorney General of the United States, we've got you, lady. She reads the reports, and he says, and I will probably never forget. She just finished reading them and said, okay. I mean, I expected more of a reaction than that. I expected this is crazy. I never talked to that person, but she was absolutely stone-faced and said nothing about the content of the memos, which I don't know how to interpret that. So her poker face is on point, man. She gets it. It's like we've got evidence from Debbie, the DNC chair, that you're passing her information that they're passing to Hillary. And we got you dead to rights. We show it to you. And she doesn't move a muscle. Even the agent's like, damn. McCabe said that he had interacted frequently with Lynch in the mornings and she was engaging and polite and well-spoken. And he thought that her lack of reaction to the substance of the reports was odd. Even Annie McCabe. What? Anderson said that McCabe walked Lynch through the two reports. So, well, here's what it says. And that Lynch had several questions. Anderson recalled one question in particular about Russians. Well, did the Russians put that in there? Did Putin do that? Stating that Lynch was careful in her response to McCabe not to suggest any investigative steps that they should take. Well, there's a lot of Russian influence, she's probably saying. Did you guys check into the Russians? Regarding her reaction to the substance of the reports, this guy Anderson said, she made a reference to Amanda Rentera, Clinton's person. She kind of stumbled over the name and pronounced it differently than we had all been pronouncing it internally. And I think she did say, I don't even know who she is or something to that effect, to make it clear to us, from her perspective, the idea of contact between the two of them was not credible. She's like, Amanda Renteria? Renteria. Yeah, so I don't even know who this person is. We never talk at all. They're like, you know it's Amanda Renteria. All right, you know it. Says, she was sort of like, I don't even know who this person is. Anderson said that on the walk back to the FBI, while they're just like skipping down, Corruption Avenue, she and McCabe discussed the circumspect nature of Lynch's reaction to the information. She and McCabe talked about that. And the fact that Lynch did not comment on its veracity. It's like, I thought that was very interesting how you responded. Anderson acknowledged that the meeting was not accusatory or akin to an FBI interview, and they did not ask Lynch directly about her opinion of the reports. It's just showing her. But that it was a little bit weird that she did not affirmatively offer a disavowal of them. Like she could have just said, okay, well, obviously you know that these reports are not true. Thank you for bringing this to my attention. I'll investigate it. Thanks for updating me. Great job. Report received. Thank you. But I don't want you guys to worry about it. We're good. All right, anyways. Anderson described Lynch as quiet and calm in reacting to this. She's like, don't say a dang thing, because she knows better. Now, Lynch had a different recollection of the meeting. I didn't just say that. I didn't know. What are you talking about? She said she recalled that McCabe told her that the FBI had information she needed to be aware of, but that they had looked at and determined it had no investigative value. So she's like, well, they came in and told me it was nothing. So that's why there's nothing. She said that McCabe told her the FBI did not plan to take investigative steps with respect to it, nor were they recommending that she take any investigative steps. She said she understood the FBI consulted with them and they all agreed. So she's like, okay, thanks for telling me. Nothing's going to happen. Great. Thanks for covering up for me. Have a nice one. According to Lynch, McCabe explained to her that they did not have the underlying communications that the reports were purported on and that they were credible. She said, well, as I said, well, just so you know, I do not know anyone named Amanda, okay? And I said, do you know if Miss Renteria knows anyone on my staff or anyone used from my office? And he said, well, we've not taken steps toward that end, and we're not recommending that you do. He's like, well, I don't know her. Maybe someone in my office? Do you know anybody in my office? And like, are you looking into this? Like, no, we're not. Okay, are you going to? No. Do you think you need to? No. Okay, well, if you don't want to, and you don't think I should, then I won't. And as I said, but just to be clear, I don't know the woman involved, Miss Renteria, I think. I've never had any conversations with her like that or anyone. And I said, if you choose to do so, if you'd like to interview anyone on my staff, including me, you're free to do so. It's just, I'm an open book. He said, thank you very much. We appreciate that, but we're not going to be taking any steps. We're going to cover this up for you. Don't worry about it. I said, all right. And I said, by you recommending that I don't take action, then I'm guessing you don't want to interview me. And he said, yeah, that's right. So, okay, I was just clarifying. He did not imply that I should or anything like that. And he again said that this was not a matter that was going to cause them to do anything. And so don't worry about it. We got it all covered up, Loretta. Have a nice day. She said that she did not have any further discussions about any of it. And after reviewing the copies, Lynch stated she never saw them before. She said that McCabe presented a truncated version of this about alleged conversations with Debbie and Amanda. Lynch said that there was no truth to the underlying allegations in the two reports. She was never in communication with anyone related to the Clinton campaign at all. Totally innocent. Lynch said that even though she met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac, Lynch said that she would have liked to have known about the reports in the spring. She said that this was when Comey commented, and she doesn't want false allegations floating out there. They're not false. We know they're true. Now, the member of Lynch's staff who attended the meeting described the conversation with McCabe as very brief. Said, I remember the attorney general saying, I don't know who this person is. I've never had any contact with them. We were all like, what is this? This makes no sense at all. I just remember her saying, I haven't had any conversations with, Debbie or that lady Amanda. But she really didn't say much. I think it was more, they were just both of them were outrightly dismissive of this. Both were incredulous. Like, what is this? This is very odd because we got caught. And they're just playing patty cake, right, with each other. Now, there was also data that was exfiltrated. Okay, we had, remember Guccifer 2.0 and WikiLeaks? As detailed in the report, the intelligence community said that the Russians did hack some emails and that their cyber espionage was against targets of both major political parties. And something penetrated the DNC computer systems in 2015. Now, in March, the Russian military, the GRU, conducted intrusions into the DNC. According to the FBI, that's the CrowdStrike security report. Blogger called Gouveia started releasing the emails, as we recall. Comey told the inspector that Gouveia and the leaks began being dumped by Russian intelligence, saying they've been very aggressive about this. Starting in the summer of 2015, dropping the emails. The dump from the DC leaks in Gouveia was active measures from Russia. Comey told everybody that the releases were causing me concern about Debbie Wasserman Schultz. So it could be fake, right? Never let a crisis go to waste. Their emails got hacked and they say, well, the Russians did it. So now our real emails that implicate us are products of Russian misinformation. So there were more releases, bunch of emails in there. We saw John Podesta, Ian Malou, Caprica Marshall, and several of those came out and were interesting. However, FBI Attorney 1 said they really didn't discuss those leaks, and that although these impacted the decision, he did not recall that those reports were discussed in the fall of 2016. So then Comey testified. He explained his reasons for not telling the Justice Department about his announcement. And they also described that in their classified report. And when all this came down, Sally Yates stated, and yet not only was I not aware of what they were doing, again, when I was having meetings with the director and strategizing about this, asked about this testimony, Yates stated, I was shocked by that. I just felt like it was horribly unfair for him to take something he knew not to be true, that he never expressed to us as having any concern about, and then publicly talked about it in front of Congress. I thought it was really unfair to Hillary. They were mad at him for that. And he was covering up for her. I mean, if you knew the truth of it, she should have been indicted clearly. It was almost, I know something you don't, but I can't tell you what it was. And so it was a problem. Now, near the end of our review, the inspector says, and after we had completed nearly all of our interviews, we also got emails from the FBI system saying that FBI lawyers drafted a memo saying, can you please give us this material? Over the course of a dozen interviews with mid-year team and senior FBI officials, including highly classified, compartmented interviews pertaining to these intelligence reports, no witnesses mentioned the existence of the draft memo or that there had been discussions about requesting access to thumb drives. This was so despite the inspector's practice of asking witnesses whether there was information the FBI wanted to obtain and could not, whether the FBI could obtain that it could get everything, and if they were missing anything they needed. When asked why no one mentioned the request to search for these thumb drives, witnesses stated they did not recall the existence of the memo until they brought it to their attention. Okay, so either they're all liars or they just, did a good job of burying it. Like there's so many memos or so many, it's kind of security by obscurity. There's one request for some thumb drives, like, hundreds of requests that go out every month. So this one request for a thumb drive comes through, they kind of forget about it, move on to the next bit of evidence because the main driver who's assigned that evidence is not pursuing it. And so it all just kind of slips by through the cracks. Everyone is presuming that everybody else is handling it, but the person who's responsible for that evidence is burying it. Based on this new information, we conducted limited re-interviews to ask about that memo. However, for various reasons, we were unable to re-interview several officials involved in it, including Comey and McCabe, because of course they don't want to talk. On May 10th, Comey held a meeting with FBI senior officials and the mid-year team. Notes taken by Peter Strzok indicate that the discussion at this meeting included the thumb drives that they then all forgot about. Maybe Peter Strzok was the one responsible for it and buried it. Has T1 asked selectors, is what he wrote, request to DAG for thumb access. T1 provided the selectors. Letter from the AG to the DD Re Clinton selectors. Strzok told the inspector that while he was aware of the issue and remembered discussions about the thumb drives, any decisions made about the thumb drives were above my level. So Strzok, I didn't bury it, someone else did. He said that everyone thought that the thumb drives were something that the FBI needed to review, but they didn't. Anderson, well, were you responsible for this? Anderson said she recalled mentioning the issue at a meeting with Comey around the same time the FBI was engaged in efforts on other laptops, told the inspector that she had been involved in a request to the department for the first 5 thumb drives, and she wanted to make sure they were thinking about the data. She also talked with FBI Attorney 1, and that attorney assigned her to write the memo. So she started the memo draft. Then FBI Attorney 1, as the mid-year team neared the end of the investigation, they met weekly with Comey to discuss what needed to be done. As noted in the unclassified report, Comey told the mid-year team in early May that there was an extraordinary sense of urgency to complete this investigation, okay? Hillary needed it done and off the table. She wanted Comey to come out and give her an exoneration. He came out and kind of split it on it. Didn't charge her, should have, covered the whole thing up for her and Loretta, who was leaking information back to her campaign. But they still were mad about it. Now, FBI Attorney 1 said the FBI had been seeking access to the thumb drives and that at one of these meetings, either Anderson or Baker raised issues that they should review the thumb drive. But FBI Attorney 1 said she did not recall Comey having a reaction to that suggestion, but he was supportive of taking whatever necessary steps. And there were drafts. FBI Attorney 1 actually sent an email to Strzok and the lead analyst saying, here's a rough draft on the thumb drive memo. The email attached a draft memo from McCabe to Yates saying we want access for the first 5 thumb drives and incorrectly stated there were 7, saying we must review these things. We've already conducted a review of those, is what the memo was explaining. We need to look at these things. There are press reports that these came from Hillary servers. We need to look at the accuracy. We've already conducted a review of these other drives. During the course of the review, keyword searches will not be sufficient. The FBI proposes reviewing these things to get further detail, okay? So this is why we need to do it. The draft memo provided proposed procedures for how we review this and a small number of employees. In an email, Peter Strzok said, looks good to me. I think there are now 8, not 7 thumb drives though. So there's a lot of them. So then FBI Attorney 1 also sent a copy of the draft to Anderson. Anderson provided a copy of the draft as well. One of Anderson's comments said, well, in explaining the relevance, we should address the time frame since Hillary left in 2013. So then on May 27th, another attorney sent a revised draft to Anderson, Strzok, the lead analyst, and the attorney in the cyber law unit. It addressed other comments, and it says the FBI investigation has determined that approximately 2,000 emails found on Clinton's servers contain top secret SAP level. These emails included senders and recipients from the Department of State, and it was exfiltrated by bad actors. Redacted, redacted, redacted. Moreover, the FBI must determine if they were successfully able to exfiltrate more data and compromise more. We were unable to identify any additional drafts of this memo, so it just got stopped on that. Evidence that this request was ever finalized all ended. So that report comes out, and it looks like the chain kind of ended there, okay? So FBI Attorney 1, why didn't that attorney, who is that? Why didn't that attorney follow up on this? Like, hey guys, need reaction to the memo. Peter Strzok knows there's 8 thumb drives around. Everybody just kind of forgets about it. We were unable to identify any additional drafts. Now, witnesses told us that the memo was never finalized, just kind of died. Although notes obtained by the inspector indicate that members of the team discussed the draft, witnesses differed on who made the decision to forego a review of the thumb drive. Nobody is responsible. Isn't that incredible? It's just security by obscurity. It just kind of dies out. It's bureaucratic dead ends. However, despite statements in the draft memo about the need to review, no witnesses we interviewed told us they thought the information would have changed the outcome of the investigation. Now, when asked what happened after she sent the draft, the attorney number 1 told the inspector that she did not recall, but she thought the mid-year team got sidetracked with their efforts to obtain laptops used by Clinton. And to call all of this, they just said, oh, it's just priority. Well, yeah, the thumb drives was certainly something we thought we should do, but was it something as important as getting the other laptops? No way. And I thought we had to get the laptops, and that was way more important, so we just forgot about it. Oh, no. FBI Attorney 1 said she did not recall additional discussions about the thumb drives. Just say the issue just dropped off. How convenient. She said that the team was meeting with Comey on a weekly basis, Asked whether the FBI viewed their request to search the thumb drives as critical, she said, I don't think it was essential that we looked at it, redacted. I think the chances that it would have been really important to our case were minimal. Attorney 1 also said she drafted the memo and others, including Strzok and the lead analyst, had not looked into the issue to determine whether those thumb drives were even needed for their investigation. And Peter Strzok was asked about this, and he rejected the idea. It's not our job to look at the thumb drives. He said reviewing the thumb drives, it was not a logical lead. It was not one that was necessary for the investigation, and so we can review evidence as we want. And our decision not to send the memo to the deputy AG was made above my level. Someone told me not to do it. And I don't know where the decision came from. It was opaque. So who told you not to send it then? I don't know. Above my pay grade. Well, who specifically communicated that to you? When asked whether the mid-year team did not seek to review the thumb drives because they were under pressure, he quickly replied no. After reviewing a draft of the classified appendix, the lead analyst also rejected the idea that the analytical teams were responsible for the final memo. We didn't do it. The lead analyst also told the inspector that he considered the thumb drive to be unavailable to the team. He said it was impossible to divorce the request to search the thumb drives from a protracted battle within the DOJ. The lead analyst explained the White House and the department made the determination that there's victim information in there, and you can't look at that. It's too harmful. And so the cover-up was well underway. There was a word cloud. We still don't know what was in the word cloud. Clinton email, cyber division identified a bunch of hypothetical scenarios. And so the report is long. Now, in conclusion, as a result of all this, the recommendation is that Comey told the inspector that they never saw any actions. Comey was concerned that this was not credible. And all of the information about Hillary getting information from Loretta Lynch is just Russian disinformation, apparently. Now, as described above, the blank reports also included an allegation, equally lacking in credibility, that Comey was leaning more to Republicans. No basis for that. And most likely, he's going to be dragging this out. Now, as a result, we did not find Comey's concerns that information about Lynch in the intelligence reports or underlying communications would be released, would be a persuasive justification for departing from acting unilaterally to announce the FBI's recommendation. So in other words, Comey screwed up there. Now, as described above, witness told us that State Department communications on the thumb drives redacted. I wonder what that sentence says. Although thumb drives might contain relevant information, such as archived emails, they said, we don't think it's going to be material. Nevertheless, there are security risks in those emails. The May 2016 draft characterizes them as having security risks, like they acknowledged it even in their own investigation. And so in assessing the FBI's handling of this, we're mindful of the analytical framework. And so we understand that the FBI is submitting a memo and they're doing their own comprehensive review of this to figure out why this happened and how it cannot happen again. So no real recommendations on that, but good exposure. And you can see, man, how this stuff works. The FBI goes in, has conversations with their bosses, who are all a part of the operation, to try to achieve their political ends. And they just play this little game of patty cake, right? Where they just, oh, hey, Loretta, we caught you sending information. But, okay, you going to do anything about it? No. Okay, then thank you for telling me. They papered their file, so they're clear. She's good. They say it's Russian disinformation. James Comey's in on the operation. They tried to steal the entire election. Now they're screaming at Trump and Republicans about transparency or whatever. And Mike Johnson and the Republicans came out today to explain back to the Democrats, they're the liars. We're finally getting transparency for once after all of these coup attempts and corruption from the Obama administration to rig an entire, essentially criminal allegation, a prosecution against the president, saying there was Russia collusion between his campaign to try to deviate the outcome of the election after Hillary lost, all the way up through John Brennan's laptop cover-up and more. Here now Mike Johnson is saying the truth is coming out.
Done being lectured on transparency by the same party that orchestrated one of the most shameless, dangerous political cover-ups in the history of this country or any government on the face of planet Earth. If the Democrats want to talk transparency, I'm happy to rewind the tape. 366 days ago, President Joe Biden was unceremoniously forced off the Democrat ticket. Everybody knows why. Even after millions of Americans had already cast their primary votes for him, the self-proclaimed party of democracy threw out their nominee, the sitting president of the United States, for his disastrous debate performance. On the debate stage, President Biden revealed to the American people what Democrats in Congress spent 4 long years trying to hide, that the President of the United States of America was in rapid mental decline and unable to continue serving as the leader of the free world. I'm going to say that again. The man holding the most powerful office on the face of the earth, who we now know was being propped up by his staff and Democrats in Congress, was in rapid mental decline. It was as shocking as it was dangerous, and they all participated in it. Nearly every single one of the Democrats who shamelessly attempted to pull the wool over our eyes still holds office today.
Yep.
You ought to be chasing them down the hallways asking for their responses on that. We released a 14-minute-long video yesterday with just a small sample of the countless receipts of the Democrats at every level spending this fantastical lie to the American people. I encourage every reporter in this room to go watch that. You ought to use the clips, and you ought to go ask them about it. And remember that the same Democrats who lied to us for years are now trying to convince you they stand for transparency. They participated in one of the greatest political scandals in all of history, and the House Republicans are not going to allow this to be whitewashed from the historical record. We'll continue to investigate and shine light on those who perpetrated this and provide.
Good. We hope so. And they are still around. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was making calls to donors saying, I'm getting information from the Justice Department that Hillary's going to not get indicted because we're rigging that on the back end. All of that now exposed. And she's still serving in Florida. Debbie Wasserman Schultz and Loretta Lynch and the rest of them all still laughing about this without any consequences thus far. But that is hopefully going to change. President Trump out today saying Barack Obama, which morphed into Biden. It's the same intelligence apparatus that gave us Obama that extended this to try to install Hillary and then gave us Biden. Committed treason in trying to conduct this operation. And there better be consequences, man. To hear Trump talk like this, to hear Mike Johnson talk like this, and Tulsi Gabbard to come out, if they don't deliver justice on what is clearly treasonous and criminal behavior, then I think they're going to lose a lot of credibility. And for that reason, it seems like the wheels are in motion, and we're happy to see justice finally be served. No one's above the law. They tried to indict Trump 4 times to weaponize the same justice system that was used to protect Hillary and to set up Trump for Russia collusion. These are actual crimes documented in their own emails. And now Trump is telling it like it is from the Oval Office. We're going to be here to continue to cover it. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do, my friends, and we'll see you back here on the next one. But we're not done yet. We got an Epstein update. And this is a curious one because Pam Bondi is now out with a new statement. And here is what she had to say. The DOJ now springing into action on the Epstein and the Ghislaine Maxwell cases. We see a new statement from Pam Bondi shared ultimately from Todd Blanche on X. And we've also got updates. Remember that Pam Bondi and the DOJ submitted motions to unseal the grand jury transcripts and testimony. And we've got orders now from the judges on both cases. We've got this Ghislaine Maxwell case where the judge issued a 4-page order explaining the DOJ needs to submit some more stuff. And we got this one in the Epstein case. Of course, he's dead and the case is closed. Ghislaine is still on appeal, but here we got another decision and order from the judge as it relates to what is needed from the DOJ to unseal the record. So we'll come back to that. But we also know the DOJ is now going to be attempting to talk to, interview, depose, meet and greet with Ghislaine Maxwell. And her team is confirming the conversations are happening as well. Here's the statement. Todd Blanche said this. Pam Bondi sharing it. This Department of Justice does not shy away from uncomfortable truths, nor from the responsibility to pursue justice wherever the facts may lead. The joint statement by the DOJ and FBI of July 6 remains as accurate today as it was when it was written. Namely, that in the recent thorough review of the files maintained by the FBI in the Epstein case, no evidence was uncovered that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. And now it's maintained by the FBI. Like, you see how they introduce, like, this is narrowing their statement a little bit. The original statement back on July 6th was pretty broad. Now it's like maintained by the FBI. Okay, well, does the CIA have a bunch of emails? Does the DNI have a bunch of emails? Does Homeland Security have a bunch of emails? Like, we play this stupid game with the FBI where it's just this solo, silent. It's the only intelligence agency in our whole country that has any evidence or any case files. Great. We saw how many FBI informants were there on January 6th in the Proud Boys trial. How many Homeland Security agents were there? Dozens more that we never got to hear about because they're not the FBI. So that's what we ask about, right? And this kind of narrows it up. Maintained by the FBI. What about the DOJ? Did you look at your files too? No evidence was uncovered that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. And this is the new discovery evidence doctrine, this idea that the only way, and we were critical of that July 6th memo, part of the conversation is that it forecloses any future investigations. Okay, it was very final. It was conclusory. It's over. We looked. You're done. Nothing else to see here. So how do you walk that back is what we were saying. Like, oh gosh, like she just did a disservice even to the next administration. Anybody else who wants to come in and dig into this a little bit further, Pan just exonerated them. Unless, like, the only out on that strategy is the discovery of new evidence. Oh, we didn't see it. Oh. Which, of course, has the downside of making you look incompetent. Like, why didn't you go do and investigate that before? Now, President Trump has told us to release all credible evidence. If Ghislaine Maxwell has information about anyone who has committed crimes against victims, the FBI and the DOJ will hear what she has to say. Well, you could have talked to her like last week, or like July 5th before you released the memo. So therefore, at the direction of Attorney General Bondi, Todd Blanche says, I have communicated with counsel for Miss Maxwell to determine whether she will be willing to speak with prosecutors from the department. I anticipate meeting with Miss Maxwell in the coming days. The Deputy Attorney General is going to go meet with Ghislaine. Until now, no administration on behalf of the department had inquired about her willingness to meet with the government. That changes now. And we know why it's changing is because there's still a lot of public pressure, rightfully so, on this case. Okay, they tried to post and move on. Post the memo and move on. You just post through it. You just keep working through it. You're under attack. Just keep going, baby. Just keep driving. You're going to be okay. And they tried it, didn't work, so now they're changing things, okay? And that's all good news. What'd Viva say? Yeah, Viva's calling out the language. Viva, maintained by the FBI in the Epstein case. Shout out to Viva. Exactly right. What about all the other evidence? What about all those files on your desk? Were those at the FBI or not? Incredible. All right, so that is from Attorney General Pam Bondi. Shout out to Viva. He's right next door on Rumble and YouTube. But we also got Todd Blanche responding to this as well. He says, justice demands courage. And for the first time, the Department of Justice is reaching out to Ghislaine to ask, what do you know, Ghislaine? At Bondi's direction, I've contacted her counsel. I intend to meet with her soon. No one is above the law and no lead is off limits. And so this is a curious situation happening now. Kash Patel says, get it. Thank you, Kash, for your contribution. We also see Caitlin Collins is reporting on this one. Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney called David Oscar Marcus is now telling CNN, Caitlin, I can confirm that we are in discussions with the government and that Ghislaine will always testify truthfully. We are grateful to President Trump for his commitment to uncovering the truth in this case. Oh, gosh. Is Ghislaine going to get a pardon? So they're going to deliver something and they're working a deal. Uncover the truth. Ghislaine is innocent and Epstein did all this and we'll see what happens. Good. Or immunity? Are they going to grant her immunity in exchange for the truth? And Epstein's dead, allegedly, and she's out. if that happens, oh gosh, I sure hope not. So we got updates now on the cases. Paul Adam Engelmeyer in the Ghislaine case issued a new order. We remember that Todd Blanche entered a notice of appearance and filed that along with the motion to unseal back on July 18th. They said, hey, a lot of public interest. We read through it here. Can you please unseal these documents? And the judge in the Ghislaine case, and remember, her case is still on appeal. She's taking it up to the Court of Appeals, rather the Supreme Court. She's saying that Epstein's non-prosecution agreement protects her. We have doubts about whether the Supreme Court will agree. I think she has a good argument and was probably intended to be included, but she wasn't named specifically. And there's a jurisdictional out caveat saying it was only limited to Florida. So she could have been prosecuted in New York, and she was. So I think the Supreme Court has a lot of outs on that, but we'll see. But the point is, her case is still open. And so we're asking, what is her position going to be on this? And we also got an update in the Epstein case because the judge in that case also responded to the motion to unseal. Let's hit them both, starting with Ghislaine's. We see here, in the case of the United States of America versus Ghislaine Maxwell, the court responds. Paul A. Engelmeyer out of the Southern District of New York writing the following. The court has received a 4-page motion from Pam Bondi called the United States Motion to Unseal the Grand Jury Transcripts. This was filed on July 18th, as we read here. Now, the motion asks that the court unseal the underlying grand jury transcripts and that they would have victim-related redactions. Now, the court intends to resolve this motion expeditiously. We're not waiting around. However, the court cannot rule on this without some additional information. Here's what we want. Now, Federal Rule of Criminal Procedure 6E codified the practice older than our nation itself, that proceedings before a grand jury shall generally remain secret, right? And this is like the standard rule. Highly protected, highly institutionalized throughout our entire system of law. Rule 6E3 lists exceptions to the rule of secrecy, but these are not invoked by the government's motion, right? We read that. We said, yeah, so now they're saying there's a kind of a sub-exception that the Second Circuit has recognized. So there are, quote, special circumstances that are not in the rule that the Court of Appeals in this district has said, well, even though it's not in the rules like this, we're going to still allow you to do it. In which a release of the records is appropriate based on the court's supervisory authority over grand juries it impanels, right? So in other words, the federal rules of criminal procedure, we'll say, are set by statute, right? So Congress will pass the rules that the courts follow. But the court is not going to say that, we don't have any inherent powers that we can use. And that's what they're using, right? Under the Constitution, we have supervisory duties. And so we have to be able to do certain things. And if we think it's in the interest of justice or whatever, we can do it. And courts always find these little exceptions for themselves. The rules say you can't do it, but we can. Saying the discretion of a trial court in deciding whether to make public the ordinarily secret proceedings is one of the broadest and most sensitive exercises of careful judgment that a trial judge can make. And the Second Circuit has identified the following non-exhaustive list of factors for district courts to weigh in considering applications for disclosure. Saying, who is seeking disclosure? The identity of the party. Well, the government, DOJ, Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, the American people. Whether the defendant to the grand jury proceeding or the government opposes it. So does Ghislaine Maxwell oppose this? We have not seen anything from her yet. We'll see what she says. She's still alive for the time being. Hopefully the video cameras are on in that cell. Why disclosure is being sought in the particular case, and this I think is kind of a weak justification. I mean, I'm not saying that our interest is weak, but legally speaking, public interest is not a strong basis for doing anything legally. Of course, we don't really care what the public thinks about any of this generally. Now, what specific information is being sought? How long ago the grand jury proceedings took place? A long time ago. The current status of the principals of the grand jury proceedings and that of their families. So what happened to the jurors? The extent to which the desired material, either permissibly or impermissibly, has been already made public, so you don't need it. It's duplicative and not necessary. Whether witnesses to the grand jury proceedings who might be affected by disclosure are still alive or dead. Whether there is an additional need for maintaining secrecy in the particular case in question. So whether the government can, or whether somebody can maintain an argument for that. Generally, that's the government making that argument, right? But the defendant might as well, or other victims might. So you might have other people say, well, I don't want my name in there. You have one victim who just says, I can't have any of that coming out because I could be identified. And the court can say, well, there's still people here who don't want it out. Now, the government's motion does not adequately address these factors. The court accordingly directs the government to file a new memo, do a better job this time. You brought up the Second Circuit, and then you didn't even analyze the indicia, the different factors that are in there. So do it again, no later than Tuesday next week. Addressing with specificity these and any other factors the government views as germane to its application. The memo of law, no more than 25 pages, double space. We'll read it. In light of grand jury secrecy and victim-related issues, the government is authorized to file on public record a redacted version and then under seal, unredacted. The court also directs the government to state in the memo whether before filing the motion, counsel for the government reviewed the transcripts and whether the government provided notice to the victims of the motion to unseal and notice to the victims who then, of course, can lodge an objection. Following the court's ruling on the motion, the court will invite the government's input as to whether and to what extent the redactions are warranted. Now, they say the court has not received the grand jury transcripts that the government seeks to unseal. He's like, I don't even have them. So the court directs the government to submit to the court under seal the following materials: an index of the Maxwell grand jury transcript materials, a brief summary, the number of pages and the dates, a complete set as well of the transcripts which are in their possession, and a complete proposed redacted set of the Maxwell grand jury transcripts, the transcripts in the form the government wants to release them, right? Because the government presents the evidence to the grand jury. It's their case. So they have all of it. They just can't give it to us because the court keeps it under seal, keeps it protected under grand jury protections, which are very strong. So a description of any of the grand jury materials, including but not limited to exhibits. Now, we also need to know what Ghislaine says. The court has not received a letter by or on behalf of Ghislaine. What is her position vis-a-vis the proposed disclosure? Any such letter is due by her on Tuesday, August 5th. So not a lot of urgency here. The government may not have notified the victims, and the court has not received any letters on behalf of the victims setting out their positions via the proposed disclosure. And so if you're a victim and you want to say something about it, Tuesday, August 5th is your deadline, signed by Paul A. Engelmeyer, the judge. And so honestly, that's kind of calling out the DOJ's memo. It's like, you guys were really sloppy on this. You didn't even give us a solid memo. And I got that vibe when we read it here. It's just kind of like, well, we have to kind of ask for this and public interest. And even though we think we did an amazing job and there's nothing here, like they're still screeching about it, all these peasants out there yelling at us, go get the records. And so we're doing that. And so we're kind of begrudgingly submitting this into the court. And they just gave I think Todd Blanche's original motion to unseal was like 4 pages, right? I mean, it was basically nothing. Motion to unseal the grand jury transcripts, as you can see here, 4 pages. So the judge is saying, where's your analysis there, Todd? Give us some more in here, okay? And put some oomph into it this time, so I have a basis to actually unseal these things. We'll see if he does. We also then saw in the Epstein case. So this one is now Richard M. Berman, United States versus Epstein. We got a new order from this judge today. It's the same jurisdiction, and so we don't know if these judges just copied each other's homework or what. But here's what this judge said. All right, in the case, United States of America versus Jeffrey Epstein, and even the format of the order looks different, doesn't it? Maybe it's just a stamp. No, it's different. It's even a different header, right? So the judges are not even on the same templates over there. All right, so the court has received a 4-page motion to unseal. This is the Epstein case. This case is mostly dead and closed. Here is what the latest activity was up until recently. 2019, sealed documents, because he's dead. The case is closed, okay? So we just got activity on this, woken from the dead. July 18th, motion to unseal. Now we got the order back from the judge. Here's what it says. 4-page motion came in, not long, and the government is now requesting unsealing. Now we're going to resolve this one expeditiously as well, but I can't rule. They copy and pasted each other's homework. Says the rule of criminal procedure 6E says special circumstances, and you have to give us details on the indicia that the Second Circuit said are relevant to our analysis, Todd. Now, the government's motion does not adequately address these. The court accordingly directs them to refile this, no more than 25 pages, double space. In light of grand jury secrecy and victim-related issues and other personal information, you can file a redacted version and file a real version under seal. The court also directs the government, before filing this, and counsel for the government, to provide notice to all the victims and whether what redactions are warranted. Now, the court has not received the grand jury transcripts in the Epstein case. And so just like with Ghislaine, they want copies of it all, an index of the materials, a complete set of the transcripts, a complete and redacted set of Epstein's grand jury transcripts that you want to release. So the full set and the set that you're going to release, and a description of any other materials, including exhibits. Now, we also want, this was our question, so Ghislaine has an opportunity to object, but the court has not received any letter on behalf of Epstein setting out any position vis-a-vis the proposed disclosure. And so Epstein's estate could theoretically object to this, I guess, and the judge could take it into consideration. And victims as well, saying the court has also not gotten any letters from victims. Any letters due by Tuesday, August 5th. This is a 2-page, undated, unsigned DOJ investigation memo, writes this judge. According to the government, Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Gosh, each suffered unique trauma. Sensitive information related to these victims is intertwined throughout the materials. This includes specific details, such as victims' names and likenesses, physical descriptions, places of birth, associates, and employment history, so ordered by Richard Berman, U.S. District Judge out of the Southern District of New York today, July 22nd, 2025. Now, these judges are both democratically appointed judges. So this is the Epstein judge, Richard Berman. He was appointed by Bill Clinton, assumed office on September 11, 2011. And this judge is the Ghislaine Maxwell judge, and he was appointed by Barack Obama, and he assumed office in 2011. So we'll see what these judges do. We'll see what the objections look like, of course, when they come down. Marjorie Taylor Greene, meanwhile, says, if you tell the base of people who support you of deep state treasonous crimes, election interference, blackmail, rich, powerful, elite, evil cabals, then you actually must take down every enemy of the people. If not, the base will turn, and there's no going back. Dangling bits of red meat no longer satisfies. They want the whole steak dinner, and we're not accepting anything else. And Tim Burchett was also out today saying, looks like it's official. We're going to subpoena Ghislaine Maxwell, which is an interesting development. So Todd Blanche is going to go and speak with her, presumably. And maybe Ghislaine comes and testifies in front of Congress. Woo, baby. All right, here's what Tim Burchett has to say.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett.
What's up, Tim?
Oversight Subcommittee, Government Operations. Hey, brother. Asked some questions to about the GAO, their bid process, but the important thing was that I did a motion to direct the chairman of the full committee to authorize and issue a subpoena for Ghislaine Maxwell to appear before a deposition. And that's it right there. I had it printed out, so I made sure I do it appropriate. Talked to Chairman Comer. He's down with it. We're good. I believe he's going to issue the subpoena. He's a stand-up guy. We just got to get to the bottom of this thing, folks. It's just, it's 4 years, and you know, we don't need to tolerate this stuff anymore. And I'm getting, I get the blowback about folks up here are going to be mad at me, but ultimately, and with all sincerity, excuse me, I'm going to answer my creator on this issue and what we did about the least amongst us. And we got to send a message to these dirtbags that do this. This is not acceptable behavior. And also a message to the victims that we believe you and that we need to come out of the shadows, and we need to bust these people that do this and send them to hell, because I'm over it. Anyway, before I get myself in any more trouble, thank y'all for sending me here.
Thank you, Tim. So he's absolutely right. If there's 1,000 victims, did Epstein and Ghislaine go and recruit every single one of those individuals, or were there other people also invested in this operation and enabling it and actually paying out hundreds of millions of dollars to settle with the victims who they helped to transact? Talking about JP Morgan. Caroline was asked about this yesterday. She had a brief conversation with the press about these records.
Caroline. Asked about the president just ordered the FBI to release the full Epstein files, just get it all out there.
The president has said if the Department of Justice and the FBI want to move forward with releasing any further credible evidence, they should do so. As to why they have or have not or will, you should ask the FBI about that. Go ahead.
More information, Caroline.
It's up to the Attorney General.
We'll see what happens with Pam. Trump also got asked about this today.
Mr. President, do you support the Justice Department seeking a new interview with Ghislaine Maxwell? Did you urge the Attorney General to seek?
I don't know anything about it. They're going to what? Meet her?
They're going to, your Deputy Attorney General has reached out to Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney asking for a new interview.
Yeah, I don't know about it, but I think it's something that would be, sounds appropriate to do, yeah.
Do you have any concern that your Deputy Attorney General, as your former attorney, would be conducting the interview, given?
No, I have no concern. He's a very talented person. He's very smart. I didn't know that they were going to do it. I don't really follow that too much. It's sort of a witch hunt, just a continuation of the witch hunt. The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up all the way going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. You know, when we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly.
Right.
So people say, oh, you know, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about. I know nothing about the other, but I think it's appropriate that they do go.
May I ask you about?
All right, so Trump kind of standing aside, it sounds like, to allow the investigation into the Epstein stuff and Ghislaine to continue, and the interview likely happening soon. And Todd Blanche has to respond to both courts, and we'll see if those files get unsealed. We'll stay updated here. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do. All right, my friends. What a beautiful day it has been. If you're just joining us, quick recap on what we talked about so you can hit the rewind button. We had a great segment at the start of this. Obama now responding to President Trump's statement from the Oval Office today that Obama is guilty. President Obama is guilty. This was treason. There need to be consequences from this. Obama responded, sounds very nervous. Tulsi Gabbard coming out saying Obama's in deep doo-doo. We got a bunch more materials coming out. Molly Hemingway dropped this amazing report explaining that even more documents show these guys were liars and trying to make up something that didn't exist. Chuck Grassley came out yesterday, and he dropped this explaining that the FBI was also cutting corners, covering up, faking like they were actually doing something and just hiding the truth of the evidence. We read through this newly declassified appendix, the annex, the Clinton annex, that was released and declassified by Chairman Chuck Grassley, and some juicy bits inside there before we heard from Mike Johnson. Then we got updated on the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff. So Todd Blanche is going to go have a meeting with her. We got 2 updates from the judges in both cases, the Ghislaine case and the Epstein case. And the judge wants clarification in both, essentially, saying the indicia that justifies unsealing these things need to be explained, and who wants it and why do you want it and give me some details, and then they'll come back and decide. But meanwhile, the DOJ will continue to march forward, and we'll be here continuing to cover it. And my friends, now it's time to hear from you, and I'm very glad that you're here. Thanks for being here. Thanks for supporting our work. Thanks for making this all possible. and for sending in these donos, baby. You're amazing. And thank you to John and Donut for clipping for us today. It is a beautiful Tuesday. Happy Tuesday, my friends. Good. Have a wonderful day. Look at these nice little flowers. So happy and pleasant. Ravicus is here. Thank you, Ravicus, for this Abraham Lincoln quote. It says, congressmen who willfully take action during wartime that damages morale and undermine the military are saboteurs and should be arrested, exiled, and eliminated. From Ravicus, from Abraham Lincoln. Yeah. There's a lot of that going on. Run Mead. Abba is now, Abba looks like they voted her out. She's still around, I think, until Friday. Abba is now available to fill the position opened by departing Emil Bove. He's going from the DOJ to the Third Circuit, provided he gets voted in, which oversees federal cases from Delaware, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. I'm not sure the judge's decision on Abba was well thought out. Yeah, I see what you're saying. So, like, she could have just been siloed off there in New Jersey. And now she's going to be able to go back to the DOJ. Like, maybe she can join Ed Martin on the weaponization team and be a lot more effective there. Bucky's is Rome says, these maniacs are deep at the DOJ. The only way to fix it is to completely shut down the DOJ. A DOJ staffer is fired after feds discover she's married to Radical behind the anti-ICE app. That dude's wife was a DOJ staffer? That's incredible. So she works for prosecutors and her husband is like trying to help criminals. Wild. These people get to do all sorts of borderline criminal behavior. Nothing happens to them. Not a single arrest of a Democrat, their judges, or their media. Not a single arrest for the feds targeting parents at school board meetings. Nothing but TV appearances. And Bucky's is Rome, man, that sentiment is going to continue to percolate if there is not action soon. Here's Bucky's is Rome. Here's two people who are getting together. Kilmar Abrego Garcia and Adam Schiff. Joining hands in total unity, both synced in commonality by falsely claiming to be a Maryland man. Womp. Good to see you, Bucky's is Rome. That's amazing. Adam Schiff, he's in big trouble. Bucky's is Rome says, we need to normalize commie shaming again. Communism is perhaps the worst thing to happen to modern humanity, and people should feel bad and stupid for liking it. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, communism is like a mind virus. It's a childish idea that is not just childish because it results in like 100 million dead people. So it does need to be, and you can call me fascist or whatever you want, but it needs to be eradicated, right? As an idea, it is horrific. And so no mercy on that. Bucky's is Rome. Brace yourselves for Ozzy posts for the next 24 hours. Look at all these pictures of Ozzy Osbourne. Rest in peace to Ozzy Osbourne. Amazing. May he rest in peace. Wow. Rest in peace, Ozzy. Did he die? That's too bad. Anyways. So Jeffrey Adams. Hey, BHO never respected the office of the president. No, he didn't. He put his stinking, disgusting feet up on that Oval Office Resolute desk. Bucky's is Rome is here. I still hate commies, says Rambo Ronald Reagan, even after they changed their names to liberals from that one. What's going on? Bucky's is Rome says, AOC vows to use lowercase letters only to fight capitalism. Yeah, because capitalized letters are tools of the patriarchy. Hey, Luis is here. Luis Holly. Thank you, Luis Holly, for bringing in 5 new members. You're amazing. Marco V, what's up? Saucy Rain in the house. Karen is my name. Tumbleweed, welcome. Terry Haggard, all gifted members, courtesy of Luis Holly in the house. Off-Label Podcast is here. Says, trying to overthrow the government from within using a small group of unelected is levying war against me as a citizen. That oath they took is the difference between treason and sedition. Yeah, exactly right. I mean, they're trying to undermine the will of the American people. You voted, you want justice, you don't want fake made up prosecutions, and it's just, they don't care about any of that stuff. They don't care about having the citizenry have a say in their governance because they think that they're better than you and you're too stupid because you're just going to vote for Trump. And you can't be allowed to do that because you're too dumb. Rob, hey, maybe Big Mike is getting a divorce because they knew Obama was going to jail if Trump won. If not divorcing before, maybe if O goes to jail. People on X have said presidential immunity, but not for treason. Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. Like, if Obama's actions are categorized as criminal, then he's not going to get immunity for that. But he's going to say that they're immune because he wasn't doing anything intentionally trying to do. I'm just following intelligence. I'm Barack Obama. And he's going to make the argument that it was presumptively immune or absolutely immune. Saturn dreaming of Mercury. What's up? Obama no longer has to say a criminal could be my son because he now gets to say, I'm the criminal. It could be me. It might hopefully be me in, 12 to 24 months. Saturn dreaming of Mercury. Thank you for the nice dono. Jeffrey Adams. The owner of The Atlantic is Steve Jobs' ex-wife. That's right. And I think she was the one on the island with Ghislaine in that picture. Sick. Rob, hey, fake Mueller investigation cost taxpayers $43 million. Not to mention the emotional aspiration and the fatigue and distrust in the government. No primary sources for Brennan. The wrap-up smear, RICO. Lock them all up. Yeah, and they did. Remember how excited they were about Mueller? Like, there are those montages like Mueller report. Jen Psaki and Jake Tapper, all of them screaming about it. Off Label says, if I did what Obama did, that is easily sedition. I didn't give an oath to this country. Obama did. That oath makes it treason. He can't do that. Good to see you, Off Label. Thanks for being number one in the chat. Hey, what's going on? Mizzy M, congrats to you and the lovely bride. Well, thank you, Mizzy M. We haven't gotten married yet, but we're definitely engaged. Bride to be, perhaps. So we're not married yet, but we'll be soon. Pretty dang soon, which is crazy to think about. Thank you, Mizzy M. You're amazing. Fred Pedamonte said, hey, hi, something bad has happened. I wrote it on Elon's. Please read it. Nancy again has helped us. Staying at a motel. Johnny won't eat. Play just sleeps. I'm sorry to hear that, Fred. I hope that you are able to find safety and security and that this situation improves. We got Colleen. Congratulations on your engagement to your boat. Thank you, Colleen. You're amazing. We appreciate you sending that one in and sending us some love. We feel it. We really appreciate it. Doan says, loving all the proof of what Cash and Dan have been digging up and reporting since 2016. Maybe Congress and the DOJ can put it together for results. Yeah, and Grassley, and we appreciate Pam sending stuff over to him, and DNI Tulsi. Like, we're starting to get some momentum here. And it's pretty good. Hey, CF Rob says, lock them all up in alligator Alcatraz. Install a section that is on hydraulic platform that can sink underwater. So they can shower and take baths? Is that what you're saying, Rob? I am Divine Creation says, Rob, you have a troll as a mod. Playing hooky is trolling your audience. Oh, no. Playing hooky. Well, is it deserved? Oh, I don't know. I haven't seen the chat. Is it deserved? I don't know. Rob, what's up? Dismiss charges against Ed Snowden. He worked for a private contractor. And thank you for the dono. I'm Divine Creation. I'm sure it's out of love. Dismiss charges against Ed Snowden. He worked for a private contractor called Booz Allen. No whistleblower protection. Government could tell Booz to dump Snowden and say, we can't tell private companies what to do. Sharpie guy, what's up? The most glorious day would be to tie this top to bottom from Stinky Feet up to Shifty Schiff and his Democrat cohort, Pelosi, Stinky Swalwell, and continues to Barry and Mike, including his cabinet members, all the way up to the money man, not Ketanji Soros. Singing, oh, happy day. This old guy says, oh, they fell through the crack? Well, after all, there were so many thumb drives. It's like, I know, we can't keep track of all of them. We got classified, exfiltrated information, thanks to Hillary Clinton's criminality, coming out of our ears. So many thumb drives, so many to keep track of. But don't worry about it because we're not going to indict her anyway, so you don't even need to look at it. Rebellious 1776 says, can Obama's new reply extend the statute of limitations? Sure, yeah, you could use that as a statement in furtherance of the conspiracy. If the conspiracy is to say that everything they did was legitimate and it wasn't, it was a coup attempt, then yeah, he's continuing to promote the conspiracy. He has the right to remain silent right now. He should use it. Spuds, what's up? Hey, thanks, Rob, for using the term Clintonitis. I coined it around the time of Joan Rivers' mysterious death. Clintonitis. Yeah, a lot of people get Clintonitis, especially when they start accusing Michelle Obama of having a dong. Sharpie guy. So, okay, the seditious conspiracy runs so deep. I'm giving it a year and a half before I bail on Trump and hope. What say you, Rob and watchers? Yeah, well, I think it's going to be a different line for everybody. I think some people have already abandoned ship. Some things it was Iran, some things it was abortion, national right to life amendment. Some, it just kind of depends. I think that it is reasonable to give your elected candidate the good faith benefit of the doubt until it's no longer possible, right? And we're early in the game, so I'm not inclined to abandon ship now, even though we're upset about Epstein. I think the better strategy, which actually is playing out right now, is that you stay in the fold and you continue to put pressure on them and you say, look, I love you enough, but because I care about you, I have to tell you the truth. And you're being a fool right now. So stop it. Okay. That's love. That's actually brotherly love. It's to say you're acting like an idiot. Knock it off. And if you don't, if you're just, I'm mad and I leave, that's actually less caring than, standing up, having a hard conversation, saying, I know it's going to anger some people and I know we disagree with your judgment, but this is wrong. So fix it. And they're, taking some steps to do that. Whether we get anything is another thing to be seen, but I think that is the better strategy. Colleen. Hey, definitely missed your sarcasm to the stupidity, Robert. Thank you, Colleen. Yeah, we try to layer it on thick, sometimes. Sometimes it's more effective than others. King of Biltong is here. Get your Biltong. You know where to get it. BiltongUSA.com. He's got a code set up for us over there. Robert, 10% off. Packed with all sorts of nutrients. B12, iron, zinc, creatine. Protein, baby. Don't eat garbage. Eat Biltong. King of Biltong. BiltongUSA.com. Code Robert. What's up? Chat with me says, anyone remember when Trump and Biden debated in 2020? Trump said something like transfer of power. There was no transfer before I got in. You and Obama did this, and that's all, and we've got it all. Is this why the White House is raided? Is the info being released now? The info they found but didn't have time and ability to release for the first term? Yeah, it's a great question, and I don't know the answer to that. I don't know that we've seen any connections that, the stuff they seized from the boxes at Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence has now been released. Haven't seen anything like that come out, but maybe there's, information in there that has ultimately led to this. But that's exactly right. There was no peaceful transition. They were setting Trump up. Benny Boy, what's up, Benny Boy? Says, gave McCabe's wife over $500,000 to run for office. Is that right? So Annie McCabe's wife got some extra money after her corrupt husband got relieved from the FBI. Tim Jake, 78. What's up, Tim Jake? Thank you for this one. And thanks for being number 3 in the chat. Says, Clinton Files, SAP, is a special access program. Anything at that level is supposed to stay on dedicated networks for those programs. Someone had to air gap that to non-program level server. Amazing. Tim Jake, thank you. Our intelligence official in the House emerging from deep cover to explain SAP. And that was in the Clinton file, right? That's what we saw specifically. It was top secret class, top secret / SAP. So, and they didn't even care about a lot of that. Well, it's just another thumb drive. So what? It's immaterial. So what he's saying is, right, you can't just get on that computer and email those records. Somebody is extracting that physically from some terminal somewhere that is not connected to the internet and bringing it over to Hillary. And she's getting access, talking about it or something. And then it's being, I think, intercepted or retrieved by that T1 character. So it's pretty serious business, and nothing happened to her. Doan, the key to Hillary's conviction is Weiner's laptop. Yeah, and I think, does somebody have custody of that? I remember that. Remember Weiner? Yeah, he's having a tough time too. This old guy says, word cloud my butt, an hour of training on the 8 thumb drives on AI, and I'd love the opportunity to query that server. A word cloud? What are you guys doing in there? Hey, James is here. James Marino. Thank you, James. I had to mute the sound because I was about to stroke out. It's not what they did, but their certainty that they could engage in sedition with absolute immunity, legally and publicly, it's an existential attack on our democracy. And it does pretty much make you sick when you think about FBI agents going in, showing Loretta Lynch, we've got evidence of you. And you got Debbie Wasserman, all these people saying Hillary's got intent to do this stuff. She deleted the evidence. We know it. The AG's communicating, Comey's, and all of it. They justify it in the name of national security and blaming Russia. And so far, they've gotten away with it, all of it. I mean, it is insane. And these are the people. It's such an abuse of a position of trust. And when you put somebody into a position of trust, like if your attorney takes advantage of you, that is egregious because it's your attorney. You hired that person to place your trust into them, and they've taken advantage of you by making you sign away your bank account or something, or your doctor who you care for is going to put some weird medical device in you and make money off of your pain and misery. Egregious. And they're the lowest of the low, total scum. And that's who these people are. We put them into positions of power. They come out, lecture all of us. Good people, democracy. And they're committing some of the most heinous, tyrannical crimes that exist and looking at us with a straight face. I mean, it's hard to understand how people can even operate like that, whether it's sociopathy or psychopathy or whatever. Savage Studios, what's going on? They're all full of BS, okay? Bondi says there's tens of thousands of videos. Then Patel goes on Rogan and says there's no videos. Then POTUS says, you're all still asking about Epstein? The circle jerk is real from Savage Studios. Yeah, there's a lot of that. Yeah, there was a lot of that going on. And then they came out and they said, well, it's just commercial pornography, so it's not anything big. You're like, pfft. Well, who made it? Who gave it to Epstein then? Okay, if that's all it was, where did he get it? Go investigate them. Uncle Bozy says, this is cool. Says, DOJ swiftly fires Alina Abba's court-appointed replacement. That's great. Good. All right, don't. Thank you for that. That's from Uncle Bozy. Hilarious. All right, don't. Trump's sitting back because they're really after us. Trump's sitting back because they're really after us. Thank you, Doan. Savage Studio says, POTUS to his cabinet says, someone get MAGA off my damn back about Epstein. Tulsi, hold my beer. We'll just indict Obama. Jonah Finn, why does Abba's removal, what does it do to McIver's case? Well, I mean, if the new U.S. attorney comes in and wants to dismiss it, they could. I doubt that they will. How do 15 judges circumvent a presidential pick that hasn't had a confirmation hearing? Well, so you can appoint acting attorneys, but then there's rules about how long they can be acting. And apparently, we listened to some of this morning, Jonah Finn. I see you're a membo, so we can grab the one from this morning. We did a whole thing on Alina Abba this morning on the membo stream. But the thesis was that Alina Abba is getting basically denied a vote in the Senate. So you need the senators in the state to bring you up to vote, to like nominate you for the vote for that district. That's kind of how like the decorum is in the Congress, in the Senate. And the two blue senators from New Jersey will not do it. So Alina is kind of stalled out. And they're just not honoring it. Goofy for Jesus. Considering all the tomfoolery, they need to look back into Uranium One deal with Russia, Clinton, and the Clinton Foundation. And I agree with that, Goofy. And I think also the Haiti stuff for the Clinton Foundation. Remember how much weirdness was going on with Haiti? And like everybody was being exploited down there. Yeah, we remember. Hey, Barb Schaefer. What's up, Barb? Says, while there is no historical precedent, were Obama to be charged by the DOJ with treason, would a case of such importance be entrusted to the federal judiciary, or would it trigger a military tribunal since it was a coup? Well, I think this administration could charge Obama with treason. I think there's another separate question about that, though. Like, what did Mark Milley do? And what was Mark Milley's involvement in the J6 setup, in the collusion? Like what components of the military apparatus were involved in it? And what are the consequences going to be for them? Could that happen militarily? But why wouldn't you just sue them or indict them criminally in civilian court, put them in civilian prison? I don't know. Fred Petamonte says, Fred is talking about an eviction. Fred says, I worked out the eviction and more. Well, that's great, Fred. So, all right. So if you want to donate to Fred Petamonte, you can do that. Fred Petamonte is sharing this and he's saying he could use some funds. He's got some roommate situations and more. And so if you want to support Fred, check out his post on X and send him some love. Francis, talk of victims in the reports from Hillary's computer worries me. Back in the day when YouTube was king, all this stuff was common. I don't know how many clips I watched about the island. I wonder if victims were from there, from Francis. What's up, Francis? Peter Safety, shouldn't a sitting president refrain from commenting on an ongoing criminal investigation? Yeah, ordinarily, except when he's the victim of the crime. You know, like literally the victim of the crime. So I think he's got some basis for talking about it. He's not commenting on something that, you know, is kind of unrelated to him. They couped him, his administration. So he can talk about it. So the normal traditional, you know, like he wouldn't comment on, generally, like you're not commenting on other cases. And he said that before. He's actually, I think he said that today in the White House. Oh, with Schiff. I think he said, well, yeah, I think Schiff's criminal, but I'm not going to stay out of it. And, you know, I'm not really comment too much on it. And of course, while commenting on it. But I think the modern, you know, that decorum of not commenting on that stuff, I think has been evaporated with Biden coming out, calling everybody, you know, from the gates of hell, MAGA insurrectionist, and President Trump. They commented on him being prosecuted repeatedly, not as aggressive as Trump. Trump comes out, he's unequivocal, right? Like Obama and Clinton and Biden specifically talked about Trump and his prosecutions, kind of with some extension, like with like a 10-foot pole, but we know what they were talking about. And so, yeah, if Trump's the victim of this, I'm in favor of him actually talking about this from the Oval Office so it never happens again. All right, my friends, first of all, thank you so much for those amazing donos. And Donut, John McGarvey, thank you for clipping for us today. Amazing mods. Thank you to K Bean and Carrie B on the mornings. We got Janik, Dog Digger, and Neuro D over on the Rumbles modding for us. We're very grateful for everybody here helping out. G-Gum, Just Rhonda, and Elliot, you're amazing. But, my friends, we're going to call it a day there. We had an amazing stream. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing to our channel if you haven't already done that. And, of course, we're coming back tomorrow. We're going to get into it again. Now, of course, we're going over to our members-only after party. And so if you're on locals, hang tight. If you're a YouTube member, I'm going to drop the link to the new stream in the chat in about 2 minutes. And we'll see you back over there. We'll debrief, take a couple more questions, take some locals comments, see what you have to say about it before we call it a night. But my friends, it has been a beautiful and an amazing stream. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks for all your support. Of course, I want to wish you the best night, the most peaceful rest you can possibly imagine. Of course, we're coming back tomorrow to get into it again. And in order to do that appropriately, we are going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching, my beautiful friends. Now it's that time where the stream must end. You brought the heat with every chat and line. Together we expose corruption. One more time we dove in the truth where the media hides. Lit up the lies with receipts on all sides. The fight isn't over, but we made them sweat. We ain't done yet, no, not just yet. Because together we are watching the watchers. Truth on our side. Watching the watchers. We won't be denied. Watching the watchers. Eyes open wide. Fighting for freedom with nothing to hide. Drop a like and don't forget to share. And bring a friend who's ready to care. Tomorrow's lies are just today's news, but here we see through